So we'll go ahead and call the workshop meeting into order, and superintendent and colleagues, if there's anything that you'd like to comment upon, please just stop me as we move through the agenda, and we'll cover all the material here and be done this morning. So, of course, the first item is the approval of the agenda. This time we have no agenda changes, but we do have a public hearing this evening at 6:15. All right, Section 3 will be recognitions. 3.1, recognition of Madison Muse, Crestview High School 2024 Florida High School Athletic Association Girls Weightlifting State Champion Olympic Division, presented by Superintendent Chambers. And then 3.2, Niceville High School Eagle Pride Marching Band presentation.
And Dr. White,
Yes, sir.
I will say, so it'd be nice to recognize our student who won a state championship, but I will say there's a number more to come this past weekend, a lot of state champions. So the next board meeting and the one on May 28th as well, which will be after school.
Yes, sir.
But we'll have to utilize those two meetings because there's so many state championships that are forthcoming.
Well, good.
It's exciting
Good,
to
good.
see this weekend all the different teams or individuals that were very proud of Okaloosa.
It's incredible.
It is incredible.
Awesome.
We might
Absolutely.
have to change our motto of our school district, the District of Champions there.
There we go.
Or even A++.
There we go.
There you
Add
go.
the plus, so it's exciting.
All right. All right, Section 4, Administrative Personnel Appointments, appointment of specialists, career and technical education, recommended by the superintendent for approval. All right, Section 5, Public Comment. Section 6, Committee and Staff Reports. 6.1, In-County Travel Paid for March 2024 by Ms. Perry. 6.2, Out-of-County Travel Paid for March 2024 by Ms. Perry. 6.3, Quarterly Report Service Agreements under the $10,000 threshold for internal and budgetary funds, presented by Mr. Wyndham. 6.4, Quarterly Report Short-Term Facility Use Contracts and Lease Agreements under the $10,000 threshold, presented by Mr. Wyndham. All right, consent agenda. 7.1 is approval. 7.2, approval of the minutes of the workshop meeting of April the 8th, 2024, and minutes of the regular meeting of April the 8th, 2024, all recommended by the superintendent for approval. 7.3, appropriation of District 1 School Board member capital outlay funds to Edwins Elementary School for clear touch panels in the amount of $4,685, presented by myself. 7.4, appropriation of District 3 School Board member capital outlay funds to Edwins Elementary for clear touch panels in the amount of $4,685, presented by Ms. Linda Vanchek and recommended by the superintendent. 7.5, appropriation of District 5 School Board member capital outlay funds to Edwins Elementary School for clear touch panels in the amount of $4,685, presented by Dr. Diane Kelly and recommended by the superintendent.
And I just,
Yeah, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
no, I was just probably gonna say the same
Same
thing.
thing.
Just to thank Dr. White, Missy Vanchek, and Dr. Kelly. And this is just another example of all of us working together for our schools. And the principals know it's the end of the year, our budgets are, I'm broke. I had to tell some principals, sorry,
I
Dustin.
know what that
I'm-
means.
I might even be overdrawn, Ms. Lloyd. But thank you, and I really do enjoy the principals reaching out and looking and wanting to do these upgrades for their students and their classes.
But what I was, yeah, and that's great, but what I was gonna get with Mr. Chambers is,
More money?
well, that would work, but that's probably not the time. But anyway, I think I've mentioned this before, this clear touch, but it's the hot item, you know, it's the hot thing. But maybe we could do, we've done a lot of these during this school year. Maybe get a sense of which schools have them, which need them. I'd like to see that because we're still getting some requests. I know we've got one coming, you know, for the next one, and see where we are on needing these and how, because I feel like we're just kind of piecemealing these things that obviously this is a teaching, learning tool that's very popular and very effective.
So absolutely, and really based on some of the comments from the first semester where we talked about technology and what's the plan. So since that time, and even a little bit before, Mrs. Lightbourne and her group, come on forward, Ms. Lightbourne and her group, Mr. Horton and his group have been working together very routinely and frequently. So there will be a technology plan that goes forward that's going to be coming. We'll have a little bit more of information this summer, but Ms. Lightbourne and her group has been working heavily on this topic.
Good.
So we are looking at Clear Touches. We have put out a survey to the principals. Tasha is actually compiling that of who, what classroom, how much is it used for Clear Touches and teacher iPads, so that we have an idea of where they are. We have an idea of where they are. We know where most of them are. The elementaries and the middle schools have really kind of pushed hard to get those in place. All of the new wings have them. So now we're looking at really starting someplace in our plan. And we'll probably start at the high school level, because that seems to be where we're lacking the most of that technology. So we'll probably start at the high school level and move forward there. That's kind of that's a really rough draft of what we're working on. But yes, all of those things that you just said, to find out where they are, we've got that happening
Mrs.
right now.
Lightbourne, to talk a little bit more specifically, even though it's not exactly there, so we're looking at a standard, in essence, what will a classroom in Okaloosa County look like?
Right, so that's what we've been working on. So knowing what we have, where we have it, is a big piece. We want to, our standard right now, we'd like to start, we kind of have to build a 5-year plan. So we're looking at a Clear Touch and a teacher iPad at minimum in every classroom. And then our plan going forward would also be 1-to-1 iPads in every classroom as well. Because instructionally, they're really the best instructional tool going forward. Now, we know we're 1-to-1 iPads K2, but then we have the Chromebooks 3.5. So we're looking at how can we move out and move in, and then how does that work with testing? So there's a lot of things that kind of all intertwine, but that's really the goal, is every classroom with a Clear Touch and at least a teacher iPad at minimum, and then moving towards 1-to-1 with iPads as well. So
And what about teacher training with all that?
So we have, so we shifted a position from MIS to curriculum. And so it's actually, I think, I'm not sure if it starts advertising today, I think. It was an empty position. So we will be hiring an instructional technology person that focuses solely on Clear Touches.
Oh, wow.
Because, well, we have so many, like Longwood, when they all got walls, everyone got a Clear Touch. So helping everyone know how to use them instructionally. We'll also have some training and just some demonstration during our SPP meetings. We'll have some training this summer, and then we'll have that person in place to go to the schools and actually do the training. They will not be in any specific location. They'll be going out. So.
And I think what's interesting about this technology is that it's an investment. This piece is an investment because as the technology evolves, that Clear Touch will still be in the classroom, and it will evolve with the technology. And starting at an early age, like I was at Wright Elementary early in the school year, and little kindergartner going up there, she was a pro at it because that's how they have developed. They've developed with the iPad,
right? Or phones, and so it's a
right.
very similar.
So so it's really it's great to see that, but the initial investment of buying that screen is not just for a couple of years and it's done. It's going to evolve with the technology, so that's really exciting.
So I know a teacher that's in the district who has one of the oldest Clear Touches, and now when our team went to FETC, there's a bar that you can buy that you can put on the top, which upgrades it to all the bells and whistles that the new ones do. So we're looking at those things as well. There's just a lot of, like I said, a lot of little spokes that come off of that, but
Right.
we're working on all of those.
So am I hearing that possibly the beginning of the school year, or close to, when I say what's that going to be, this August, September, November, there might be an allocation of Clear Touch to schools?
So,
I know I'm
so
stretching.
be cautious. You know how much they cost, right? So we have to we're looking at starting in a particular content area, probably a state-assessed secondary content area that we feel like needs that next push for engagement. So that's what we're looking at. So don't think, I just don't want everybody to think that everybody in high school is going to have one, because we don't have the funds to do that all at once.
Right.
But that it'll be a phasing in, but we will start with a content core tested area that at the secondary level is what we're looking at right now.
And then just as a reminder, because it's a good question, and I love the fact that it kind of stemmed from, a board meeting several months ago. But Mrs. Lightbourne and her group, Mr. Horton and his group have been doing a very good job on the behind the scenes, looking at what can a plan look like. Obviously, we've ordered a lot of clear touches, so that's a great way to go. But there's still some surveys to come. There's still other input meetings to come. There will be a capital, you'll see in the capital budget, there'll be a capital allocation towards technology for this plan, but in no way, shape, or form is it completely done. And then two, there's no way that we will fund it all in year one. So this will be a systemic process over time of what does a standardized classroom look like technology-wise for the school district. We also know there'll be some teachers who will be all over it. There'll be some who might be a little hesitant as well. So we don't want to necessarily
No.
force this upon anybody, but do it the right way. The question on training is absolutely the key. Mrs. Lightbourne has really talked a lot about that. We have to have good training for this, and because these clear touches are pretty neat, but so also are other pieces, such as the iPad and what it can do as well.
There's so much that can be done with.
There's a lot more to come, but that was a good question. And this summer, there'll be an even more intense update on where we are with the technology plan.
Well, thank you. I think it's nice to know that the district started focusing on secondary, so that if we have requests to come in and they're at the secondary level, we can say, hold on, but then we know that we can maybe support the elementary. And I don't know if you remember, but years ago, many years ago, before we were given an instrument, we had to go through the training and sign off on it, that we participated in training. Otherwise, people were using them improperly, they were being broken. We know, especially there's so much that can be done, and if you're not trained, you're only just scratching the surface at it. But there was a day that we had to, for several different
Absolutely.
pieces of
We-
technology.
We've
we had
also
to-
looked at, our district training that we do, our 3 big trainings a year. That will be embedded in that content training as well. So for that new group, and then we'll also do it in the elementary for those who already have them. But for that new group, that will be embedded in their core content training as well.
Perfect.
So I have another question for you, Ms. Lightbourne. We're talking about funding and how we're responsible for funding that. Is there any type of programs out there, like grants or anything that we can apply for that might help us, with Title I schools, or, being Purple Star schools, things like that? Is there?
So Title I has purchased, I think, I'd have to ask, is Amy in here? No. I know Amy has purchased many this year for the Title I schools. So that is an avenue that we go, but there's only a certain amount of money
Right.
you can purchase technology from out of your Title I grant. So yes, Title IV and DODEA. So the DODEA grant's already written for what they're written for, but then a new grant could go down that avenue as well. Right now, we have not found any that are just specific technology, but we can, in future grants, go down that avenue.
Maybe a business, how we do adopt a classroom, or what, maybe a business would like to adopt a Clear Touch for a classroom. Our
Or-
community is always so supportive, or, just something to put out there. And what are they, about 2,000, 4,000?
$4,585.
Yeah.
And,
About 5,000,
and
yeah.
I believe Ms. Barron, when she was principal at Pryor, how she did it, because I think she has 100%.
Well, she did a lot of it through her Title I
Right.
funds, yes.
So, but I think they're the one school that's pretty much
100%.
Yes.
Absolutely,
I
they are.
have support prior with theirs. I know we all have, kicked in, but again, $5,000, maybe we have a business or some generous individuals that would like to adopt a
Absolutely.
panel. We can put a little plaque on it for them.
And so that's the standardized, once we eventually get there, but there'll also be some supplementary pieces that we'll also look at. So just talk a little bit about the Oculus goggles and what might be coming in the future.
So we actually have a Zoom with them at 10 o'clock. So today, it's a company called Prism. And these are goggles. They have curriculum in middle school math, algebra, geometry, and science. And so it's like a project-based, to me, it would be the assessment, but it would be hands-on. So the Meta goggles that the kids are doing, the VR, this is VR, but it takes them through a process of using the math in a real-world scenario, 3D or 4D, whatever, I'm not sure what that is, but, and so we're really excited about that. We're looking at 2 of our middle schools potentially piloting that. That's kind of that next layer on top of what they have. Our schools, potentially some schools of poverty, to get those students engaged in those math lessons. Again, it wouldn't replace our curriculum, it would enhance our curriculum. So really excited about that. That's what the kids love, so you get them engaged. Could be a pre-lesson, could be a post-lesson. That's what we're going to learn a little bit more about this morning as well.
A lot of great things.
Awesome.
All
Exciting.
right, thank you, Ms. Lightfoot. Anything else, Superintendent?
No, sir.
All right. Okay, so that was 7.5. Let's move on to 7.6. Appropriation of District 5 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Niceville High School for sod repair and padding for the gym walls in the amount of $11,227.61, presented by Dr. Kelly. 7.7, Resolution 24-08, authorizing the approval of a second amendment to lease schedule for certificates of participation, the School Board of Okaloosa County Master Lease Program 2022A, to authorize and add certain roofing other projects that may be financed, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.8, invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Ms. Perry. 7.9, payroll warrant register and accounts payable warrant register totaling $40,748,753.68. And self-health insurance claims and fees totaling $1,776,312.87. And bank transfers totaling $0 for March 2024, presented by Ms. Perry. 7.10, school donations by Ms. Perry. 7.11, authorization to appropriate federal impact aid funds and make a payment in the amount of $69,780 to charter schools, presented by Ms. Perry. 7.12, tag on bid purchase over $50,000, Weatherproofing Technologies Incorporated, presented by Mr. Wyndham, recommended by the superintendent. 7.13, ITB 24-04, tennis track pickleball court resurfacing, presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. 7.14, underground distribution facilities installation agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa and the Florida Power and Light Company at Shalimar Elementary School, presented by Dr. Smith and recommended by the superintendent. 7.15, amendment to grant Florida Power and Light Company a 10-foot wide utility easement at Shalimar Elementary, presented by Dr. Smith and recommended by the superintendent. 7.16, Okaloosa County School District 2025-2026 school calendar, presented by Dusha Ross, Director, Reporting and ERP Services, and recommended by the superintendent. 7.17, Carl Perkins Post-Secondary Entitlement Grant for 24-25 school year, presented by Mr. John Williams, Director, Okaloosa Technical College, and recommended by the superintendent. 7.18, change of personnel to the Selection Committee for the RFP 24-03, Information Technology Seat Management Outsourcing, presented by Mr. Eric Mitchell, Director of Information Technology, and recommended by the superintendent. 7.19, IT outsourcing contract modification and novation, presented by Mr. Mitchell, Director of Information Technology, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. 7.20, Community Education Summer Driver Education Program, presented by Brian Humphrey, Specialist, Human Services, Athletics, and Discipline, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. 7.21, Request for Course Code Adoption for 24-25 school year for Walton Beach High School, presented by Ms. Stephanie Gillis, Specialist, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the superintendent. And then lastly, 7.22, Autism Spectrum Disorder Add-on Endorsement Program K through 12, 24 through 29, presented by Ms. Sharon Duron, Program Director of Professional Services, and recommended by the superintendent.
And may I just say, because I was
Yes, ma'am.
questioned on this is an optional add-on endorsement. It's not a required, it is an optional for those who have a teaching certificate in exceptional student education.
Yes, ma'am.
I did have a couple questions, people thinking that might be something, a requirement.
So you have to have the ESE first?
Yes.
To add that
You have to
on?
have a teacher certification in exceptional student education, K-12.
To add that on?
To add that on,
Yeah.
yes, it is
Okay.
optional.
Yep,
You got it.
all right. Okay.
I was asked, so just to clarify that.
And it is a renewal. We've had it in our professional learning catalog for some years.
I think people were
So-
confusing it with the reading certification where you had to, that
Yes.
was the requirement.
Right.
Yeah.
And being that this was an endorsement, I just had a couple of questions
Yep.
on that. So.
Gotcha.
And I see Ms. Ard
Yes,
coming.
just want her to come up, because
The
this is I
experts.
think this is a good thing.
I think it's excellent.
For especially our students, but also our teachers as well.
Good morning. Yes, many of our teachers have been taking taking advantage of the free autism endorsement programs that they have online. Our teachers have to be ESE trained to be in our ESE classrooms, but adding that extra endorsement is making them more skilled at teaching our students with autism-related disabilities. So it's giving them a lot of hands-on experience, tutorials, and some feedback for them to even be more skilled in our classrooms.
And Ms. Art, are we seeing more students on the spectrum?
Absolutely. That would be the population that's growing the most of
Mhm.
our students with disabilities in our county.
So we need those teachers to have that training
Yes.
to meet that need.
We do. We have many in our general education population. And then we also have students across the whole continuum of services, all the way into some of our special cluster programs for our students that need that level of support.
And I know you also provide, provide support for our ed support individuals that are working along with our teachers.
Yes.
Some training for those individuals.
Yes, our ESC paraprofessionals that are working with our students with all disabilities are having training, ongoing training, and a whole day of training before school starts. But then we are giving them training as they need to meet the needs of their students.
Great.
And this endorsement, approximately how long ago did this start?
I think it's about 3 years ago that we've been doing the program.
It's been around for a few years.
There was one before, but the one we're using now has been about 3 years.
Yeah, the one we're using now, it's been about 3 years. In my records, I can see that we've had a program some sort of program since 2019.
Mhm.
It's been on the books with the state even before this.
Thank you. And I asked that question because Ms. Ard coming in, understanding that we've had more students with this diagnosis, and one of the things that she's talked to me about is how do we support our teachers even more so. This is just one example of that, so I just appreciate that leadership.
Thank you.
And even in those general ed classrooms, like you said, we are seeing more and more students that
We are.
have this special need for our teachers to
We are, and
to
it's
work with them.
always our goal to have our students with disabilities in their least restrictive environment. So oftentimes that is a general education
Mhm.
classroom with just some accommodations.
Right.
Nice job, both of you.
Thanks.
Ms. Arts brought in a lot of excellent training
Yes, ma'am.
for our individuals.
All right, that takes us to Section 8. Section 8.2, information only, deferred retirement program presented by Dr. Hale. 8.3, department staffing restructure presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.4, employment separations presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent.
Dr. White, can I
Yes, sir.
comment on 8.4?
Sure.
Mr. Horton, you still have a chance here before we vote on this tonight, you know.
Well, I always ask. You know, I always ask if we don't approve it, does that mean these individuals?
right.
Are
I think we could get at least 3 up here.
There's another Horton on that list who will come here.
But if you're making waffles, I can be there.
All right. 8.5, personnel recommendations presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.6, employee transfers presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.7, employee suspension presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.8, reinstatement, reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, medical exam presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. And then 8.9, leave without pay presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. At this time, there are no items on the discussion agenda. Section 10, construction program owners' representatives business. And that will be a status report. We do have an action item that will be 10.2, program number 6, task order number 32, GMP for Kenwood Elementary School and Plough Elementary School for roof replacement, presented by Dr. Smith and recommended by the superintendent. That brings us to section 11. Mr. Attorney, your business, sir.
Nothing at this time.
All right, thank you. Superintendent, section 12, your business, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and School Board. I do have a few quicker announcements, and then I'm going to have Mr. Meyer come forward and give a description of kind of where we are in terms of construction, in terms of renovations, just where we are in different zones throughout the district. But first, I want to start off by saying I thought the Auntie Mitchell Awards last week was phenomenal. If you think about 591 students, and you think about the coursework they've taken, you think about the GPAs that they've achieved, it was pretty remarkable. One student having a 4.8 GPA. I dare say what my GPA was graduating from high school, but it was not a 4.8.
Well, you can make it up.
If I make it up, I could be close.
There's a record of it somewhere.
I'm not gonna go there right now. However,
Well, you brought it up.
that's true. Fantastic event. I do want to thank Ms. Floyd, Ms. Mary, Ms. Hupp, Ms. Foraker. A lot of behind-the-scenes work to make that go extremely smoothly. And you think about 591 students coming across the stage, and I thought it went very efficiently. Do want to thank our principals, the guidance counselors in schools for organizing all of that and having the students there. But it was neat to look out and to see all the students, to see the families there, to recognize and honor academic achievement. And I thought that was just spectacular.
And Superintendent, if I could just add, very, very grateful for your work and your staff's work, and Miss Mary and Miss Amber and all of you for putting all that together. You know, I used to think I'd just show up somewhere and say, oh, this is nice. But the amount of work and effort that went into that was very, very evident. And just again to say thank you for putting that on for those special students.
And I just want to recognize the students, the parents,
Yeah.
that those students walked across that stage with such pride. They were so nicely dressed.
Yep.
You could, the parents that, I mean, the place was packed, but I was so impressed with the students that came across that stage also. And you could just see the pride, and they were so thankful, thanking us for, you know, the presentation. So I was just, that just kind of caught my attention, just the students that, and thank the parents because they're the ones that brought that to us.
Absolutely.
And this being the third year that we used Raider Arena, I mean, it's a great facility. I think that's been a game changer for us, and to thank the staff at and the administration at Northwest Florida State College for letting us use the arena. It's definitely, you don't feel like you're on top of everybody. Everybody's got some breathing room, and it's very well lit, very well sound, and the great big monitor on the back. So it's a great venue. So
Well, it's nice that the students are all in front of us, and then the next level up, you see all the parents and people there to celebrate, so it is very nice.
Very, very nice event. And then I just want to thank Mr. Spolsky. He represented us at the AFA, Air Force Association, and they had an event where we had 6 of our junior ROTC students receive a $5,000 scholarship. And you think that's $30,000 that this organization is supporting our students. And you think about where we are here in Okaloosa County, very strong military-oriented community, and them giving back to our future military leaders, I think that's fantastic. So I appreciate you representing us. We also had the Okaloosa County Art Show, and Ms. Lightborn and her group over there supporting us with our students. We went over to the art show and walked around, and Mrs. Lightborn and I, we were just blown away. From elementary all the way to high school, you see the level of sophistication of these art projects. I couldn't have been more happy. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to get with some of the students and their families and see if they might be interested in some of their artwork being donned here in our district facilities, and let that kind of be a showpiece for us. Again, when you see the level of caliber of these art students' work, just blown away. So Miss Moran, she's been leading this for probably a decade or more, and she has others that help as well, but just thank Mrs. Moran for the work of organizing all of it. It's another big chore that people don't realize everything that happens behind the scenes to highlight our students, but I couldn't be more grateful. You may have noticed last week our First Lady, Casey DeSantis, she unveiled the Resiliency Florida resources. And I want to just say to the board, these will be resources that will allow students to have access for items where they can help their students at the house. Some of the standards that they will focus on will be grit, perseverance, gratitude, personal responsibility, among other things. And we will have a link on our webpage where parents can go and utilize these resources as they see fit. There will be more information that will come on this initiative. It was just announced last week, but some of the preliminary look and looking into it, so I appreciate Ms. Lamb and her group doing some quick research on it, but I think it's going to be some good resources for families. This Wednesday is Admin Professionals Day, and so I think we all want to mark that on our calendars. I'll say for me personally, Ms. Floyd over there, she has a tall task in keeping this guy right here going in the right direction, so I just appreciate what she does for me every day. And then, of course, I appreciate each of our admin assistants throughout the district. They do a great job. I think all of us, if we go back to whether it be principalships, whether it be teacher, whether it be businesses, there's always those folks who help keep things going the right way, and they are behind the scenes, once again, backbones of what we do every day. So just very appreciative. There is a House Bill 1473 that will be signed into law, and it deals with safety and increased measures of safety. And by increased security, I mean really a strong emphasis on access control. So there will be some adjustments, and I'll just say this, there's going to be more to come, but there'll be some adjustments to security measures during the school day and 2:30 until students leave. There'll be things that schools will have to do. Mr. Dean, we're very fortunate that he's a leader in the state of Florida, and his voice is well heard, and he's very knowledgeable. So there will be some adjustments that we will make, but this is just a quick intro into House Bill 1473. More will come on this, but there will be an increased emphasis on security, especially as it deals with access control. This is just a reminder that state testing begins next week, and with that, Mr. Meyer, if you come forward. And I really want Mr. Meyer over the next several board meetings to continue to give this board and the public an update as to where we are across the district, but specifically go by zones so we can see all the work that's happening. sometimes, even with all that's occurring, some folks may not realize all that truly is occurring throughout the school district. So this will be an opportunity to just kind of take in chunks what's happening. And with that, I turn it over to Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Good morning, board members. Yes, so, and also Happy Earth Day. I don't know if we
That's
knew
right,
that,
Earth
but it
Day.
is Earth Day. So as Mr. Chambers said, we're going to try to go through each zone. If I can get this going. Just this right here? Nope. It's all right.
It's frozen.
Uh-oh.
It's not you.
So, we do have 5 weeks before summer starts, and in the construction world, summer is a busy time. We got a lot going on at every one of our schools. Thank you so much. So as we prepare for June, we're trying to lay out schedules and look where summer school is and where we can be on campuses and where we cannot. So anyhow, the capital updates starting on the north end. So this is actually a rendering that DAG has provided us on the new K-8, and I'm going to get into that in later slides here. But I'm gonna go back and I'm going to start at the beginning of Program 6, and that's with our Jacobs Titan group. That's the total program management. When we started with task order 1, which was some roofing, and then when we moved to 2 was our single port of entry and fencing. That started around 2019. We were trying to fund that ourselves before the sales tax started. We did do a few of the schools, but then we were able to speed things up when that sales tax hit. So most of these are all completed in the north end. Task order 12 is our big projects under our COP. There's still some things being done there. So, and then with our OCR and sidewalks on task order 22, we're still ongoing with some of those. But all of these essentially are completed. And when we go back, you look at the single point of entry there at Crestview High School and the fencing that we did. The bottom left picture is Walker. That was a big front office redesign when we did the front entry there. Some roofing, some paving work were all part of these task orders. I'm just going to show you a few pictures of things that are done. We've had ribbon cuttings at some of these, Laurel Hill Classroom Edition and the Crestview High School Classroom Edition. Couple pictures of the classrooms themselves, and then some roofs there. These are all been done in the last couple years. As you remember, last summer we finished up the gym floors. We're actually getting those recoated this summer before the warranty expires, so they'll have a fresh look as well. But those were big projects that the schools benefited from for their sports. One example of some things that a lot of people don't see is the OCR reports that were written up that we needed to address some things on our campuses as far as handicap parking, some ballards, some sidewalks to different areas. We did that all over the county, and there's some examples at Laurel Hill, Shoal River, and Davidson is there. Stop me if you need to, but I'm just going to go through a couple other pictures and task order. This is the roofing priority list that was in the north end. Laurel Hill, Richburg, and Crestview High School all had new roofs on certain buildings on their campuses. This is a list of the last couple years that the maintenance department has covered and been able to accomplish. Anywhere from just basic painting needs throughout the campuses, to flooring replacement, to new tennis courts, new lighting. Baker, the bottom left picture is the Baker track being renovated and replaced. So we don't highlight these as much as we do our capital projects with Jacobs, but there are other smaller projects that are getting done throughout the district. So that's a list of things in the north end over the last 2 years that have been done. The stadium lighting upgrades to LEDs was a big benefit for all of our high schools. These are the active projects that we have ongoing at the moment. On the far right is Crestview High School, which is essentially done. The multipurpose building is essentially done. Baker will be done next month, maybe going into May. And then Laurel Hill looks like that multipurpose building will be done in June. So they're coming along great, and as you can see the pictures, the bottom left is Baker. They've already put in sod and sidewalks and ramps down to that building, but they're coming along.
Do we have the CO for the multipurpose room at Crestview? I know last week she still didn't have the keys.
We're trying to get that. Essentially, it is done, but we're trying to wrap up
All right.
just minor things
Yeah.
shortly, hopefully this week. Good question. So those are ongoing under task order 12. We also have at the Richburg campus, the old front office renovation, which is coming along great. These are just a few pictures, but as you know, if you ever walked into that space, this was a complete redo as far as from the roof down. So that should be done again this summer. Again, we're pushing a lot of projects to be done before the start of next school year, and this is one of them as well, but they're excited about that. These are other task orders that we have out there that some are moving faster than others. The auditorium upgrades, we did get new seating in at Crestview High School, and we're working on the other auditoriums in the north as well. Security upgrades, phase 2, to Mr. Chambers' point about working on the next phase of safety and with Danny Dean. As the resources and funds come in and we get some direction from the state level, we'll be working on that task order to get that done. Crestview High School also has another electrical panel that needs to be upgraded that feeds the stadium. So as we put new lights on that campus, we've identified some areas that are older and that we need to upgrade. HVAC, we have a large task order to include Crestview High School on their chiller under that task order. And then we've talked about the performing arts upgrades at the high school level at a couple different high schools for a couple years now. We're moving in the right direction to get those done. And then district-wide parking and paving. We know Crestview High School's had a lot of work done around the building, but now the parking lots need to be addressed as well, and then some other areas. So we're working on those to get those done. Yes, sir.
So the picture right here is the auditorium, and last week we were able, they had an award ceremony there, and I was commenting to Miss Hayden, you know, how bright it was in the auditorium now because we switched out all the overhead lights to LED lighting, and what an amazing difference. I kind of joked with her, we were talking about capital money that we have. I said, how much am I going to have to help you with the painting of the auditorium now, because it's, you know, definitely so bright in there and you can kind of see the blemishes and all that. But what a difference, and those chairs are amazing too to sit in and all.
It really does make a difference, and it was well needed. And we are coming back to paint that, so feel free, yeah, you can spend that somewhere else on the clear touches.
Mr. Meyer, did you hear we're broke?
Oh, yeah.
You
I
can stop
understand your
passing
pain.
the word.
And I do
but-
want to say
I'm
on
broke.
the auditorium, and this board has been great, so you know we've looked at renovations, we've looked at classroom additions, but we've also looked at, you know, athletic facilities. We looked at the arts as well. So the arts is something that we're also focusing on. So you see a couple examples there, but again, just really looking at the academics, the arts, the athletics, where our students are involved in. So there's just so many different areas, and I'll have a couple other comments at the end as it pertains to this, but just wanted to bring that to your attention. Sorry.
No, it's fine. And task order number 39, the district-wide parking and paving projects. And I know I've said this on many occasions since I've sat in this chair, that the Crestview parking lot is like, it's piecemealed.
Yes.
It's a bombing range. That's what it looks like when you drive around it. And so I'm really excited for the future of that, to finally get it to where it's a functional parking lot and not you figure out which way you have to go type deal. So,
It's needed.
yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, and then, so what's to come? This is exciting. In our next COP that we're working with our bond council with, and Ms. Perry and Mr. Horton have been taking the lead on that. These are three big undertakings with the Crestview new K-8, Baker 12 classroom addition, and then we also have a task
All in my
force-
zone, just saying.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Just saying.
We never knew that.
That's right. And then our restroom concession stands at multiple places as well, we're working towards.
So, Mr. Meyer, real quick, if you can go back to the next picture, up there at, okay, so up in the top of the picture is a track
Yes.
and a football field and all that. Is the track going to be built to be able to host certified, sanctioned events? Because right now, none of our schools up on the north, I believe Fort Walton's is really the only
one.
school that
That's
can
right.
do it.
Regulation that can host a
Yes.
regional or.
So is
higher
our
event.
plan to make that
Yes,
so
sir.
we can
Yes,
host
sir.
them up there?
With the space that we have on that piece of property, it fits and we can absolutely do that.
Okay.
Now, there has been some conversation whether that should be a rubber track or not. We'll have to get the experts to weigh in on that.
Well, and I think at this point, if we can at least be able to have meets up there,
Sure.
because Baker, Laurel Hill, Crestview would all benefit from this, and the middle schools too, so.
Absolutely.
Why can't I know that Baker's track was just redone. Why was that not done to regulation to host?
It's the space and the size of the track itself. They've moved from 100 meters to 110.
Oh, okay.
And you need 8 lanes and not 6 or 7, which most of our tracks have.
And they would take up some of the football field
That's
area
right.
there too,
That's right.
which is also not just for football, but for soccer and
That's right.
lacrosse and
Yeah.
things like that,
Yeah,
so.
it's a good
Gotcha.
question. So anyhow, that's, here's a couple other pictures that they provided us. Now, the Crestview, we'll have to get into naming the school, but we are looking at the next generation of schools with modern innovation when we're doing this, and DAG has done a wonderful job. We've included some principals and district staff in a lot of these meetings moving towards designing this, and we're getting closer. These are just a couple pictures. This is a STEM area with roll-up doors in between buildings that we could have some open space where classrooms could roll out to, so.
And before, go back one. And the neat thing in terms of getting principals, district staff involved in the actual, what the footprint looks like, so on the CTE side. So this school is being built with CTE programs in mind, with band and chorus in mind, with athletics in mind, with different academic programs in mind. So it's again, it's neat to see it all come to be. Like on that picture there, you see there's an open bin, which may not be those actual structures there, but it's for CTE as well.
It's nice to see that we're building for the future where without the half-cent sales tax, we were only patching for the month or for maybe for 6 months, just trying to stay, but here we are able to build out future-wise, so that is so nice to see.
This is the layout of the first floor. This is a 2-story building. That top piece from the left to the right is the gym, some admin space, band and chorus, and then the media center on the top right, and then it flows down to the CTE space and cafeteria and the wings off to the left there. So I know this is a quick picture rendition, but just to kind of give you a layout of what the building is heading towards.
How many elevators? I think of people with disabilities trying, I mean, that's a large area. Do you have a couple or?
There's one for sure. I don't know if it requires an additional one, but we do have one.
So what are we anticipating this enrollment, like, how many students can we get in this building then?
We're building it for 1,200. So
Okay.
we're looking roughly 800 elementary and 400 middle school students.
Okay, so let's go back to the elevator. If it's down, there is another,
There'll be
Option.
some ramps, but
Okay,
yeah.
all right, good
And
ramps.
that does happen, so we're aware of the upkeep of an elevator.
Elevators,
So
right.
yeah, we have to keep it running.
And then I know this board is aware, but members of the public, so even remember, this is 80 acres of land. So we have the ability, when the time comes, to also then build an elementary below. So this is built right now for K through 8, but with a middle school footprint. But we have the ability, when the time comes, to then add the elementary and the additional acreage.
Awesome.
This is the second floor, again, just different classroom space, and we've worked with ESE, regular classroom space, the CTE, the science labs. So really, it will be an award-winning school. It's really being designed well, so it's moving in the right direction. And that wraps that up. If I have any
Fabulous.
questions.
Well,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
got one quick question, and I know Ms. Vancheck and myself, even though it's going to be in her zone district, it is a representation of the entire North End. But when do we expect to see groundbreaking on this, or are we still on plan for a 26 opening?
Yes, sir. That's our goal, and this summer I would expect to be clearing some land, and then this fall we would be breaking ground to start building.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we're working with the county to get access to get to the site. So
Right.
of course, they're still building the bypass, and the county has been great with us, and we're working with them to make sure we get what we need.
Yeah, I think our access with the overpass over the railroad tracks there is, they're starting to get that bridge really rolling now. And then, of course, I'm trying to get my bearings, the east-west bypass, it looks like they're finally, the city's doing their part to get that cleared. And so it should be paved too. But what people don't realize, and board members, if you get a chance, take a tour back there, but a lot of it's already paved.
It is.
It's just the bridges, you got 3 different agencies working on this, Florida DOT, the county, the city, everybody's involved, so everybody has a different time frame. But, it's really interesting to see how a lot of that is behind the scenes, like you said, is already completed. It's just a matter of the bridges and all. And for those that do live in Crestview and have to take PJ Adams, they did get the first 2 phases open now, so it's 4 lanes pretty much all the way up to Country View. So that's really exciting to see that done too.
A lot of good things in the north end. So.
Well, I know all of you, social media, have seen the Taylor Swift mentioning of Destin. Ooh, yeah. And all the chatter, and there's been a lot of chatter, I'll say not very positive, because of all the extra tourists, and all I could think of was additional revenue. So for all the individuals out there watching this, not only Destin, but Okaloosa County, Fort Walton, Crestview, all our area, come visit, because then we're able to do more of what you just showed. And I try to tell people, yes, tourism brings in individuals, but also that's that additional revenue that's going back into our schools. So, thank you, Taylor.
And again, I just want to remind the board, so you think back
Thanks, Mr.
to 2019 forward, and you think about what Mr. Horton, now Mr. Meyer, and their entire group, what they're doing. And some of you said it, we used to kind of patch things together. So now we're talking single point of entry. We're talking classroom additions, cafetoriums, multi-purpose buildings. Roofs are being completed. Air conditioning systems are being completed. We're paving. We're fixing bathrooms. And these are some of the visible things. And I know, some folks would like to see other things fixed. I get questions or have conversations of, what about this? And the thing to remember is, so we have our half-cent sales tax project list, and that's what we promised the voters that we would hit within the half-cent sales tax. And of course, we're going to focus our money on those specific items. But because of the half-cent sales tax, our capital budget is even stronger as well. And we are systematically, looking at bathrooms. We are systematically looking at field houses, tracks, front entries. So there's a number of things that we are doing and will continue to do. So if you think about the magnitude of just the north end of everything that you just saw, we didn't do anything like that in probably almost a decade or more in terms of what's just happening. But you will get an update on the south end and the central end of the county as well. So I just appreciate it.
You
And
can
that's all I
purchase
have, Mr. Chair.
technology out of capital outlay also, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
So that's something else for those, just looking for funding for more of those clear touch panels for you if you needed it.
Yes.
Well, I did have a question, and I know Dr. Kelly's not here right now, but have we pretty much gotten past the COVID days of supply backlogs and also labor, deficits, where we, have trouble getting people to do it when we haven't, or anything like that? Are we pretty much rolling now, so to speak? I don't know if that's Mr. Meyer or who wants to.
I'm going to look to
Doc-
our folks who are a little bit more
Right, right.
up to speed on that.
The situation has greatly improved, but there's still significant items. Electrical panels, internal parts of electrical panels, some large motors that go to some of our air conditioning equipment. And what we try to do is we're trying to design around those pieces that have long lead items. And if we do have pieces that are long lead items, we try to bring them to you and purchase them up front so they'll be available when we get finished.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Because I know that we had that for a while, but seems like things are moving faster now when you go out. And, of course, we do get questions. I'm sure other board members do too. And people drive by and see things and want to know the time frame and how this is happening and not that happening and everything. But, I mean, you can see everything really starting to move now, which is great. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evancheck. Thank you, Superintendent, for the update. All right, so that takes us to Section 13, Board Members' Announcements. And so, Ms. Gardner, if you don't mind, ma'am, I'll start
And
with
I
you.
will have something this evening.
Okay. Ms. Evancheck?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Thank you. First of all, our for the Public Schools Foundation, our career day that we helped sponsor over at Elliott Point went really well. I know, Mr. Superintendent, you talked with them. Anything you want to say? What did they ask you?
First of all, I'm not going to necessarily go into all the specific questions, but I was blown away not only by the questions that they had prepared, but the way that they answered questions I posed to them. It was two fifth grade classes. Sophistication, well-spoken, respectful. So it was a great day. They were excited about it, but then I'm not gonna. Are you gonna mention the robot?
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So they had a gentleman from the Air Force Research Lab that was there with one of those dog robots that they utilize in war simulations. And this dog robot was probably 5 feet long, probably 3 to 4 feet tall. I was able to drive it for a second. But the neat thing is they were sharing with the students that this is something that is on the ground in the war, and that this thing then communicates with planes up top and then says that this is where you can hit a target. So troops don't necessarily have to be in harm's way for this. That was just one example of the way that they utilize this technology for these robots. But it was neat. You could have heard a pin drop. The students were so engaged on the robots, and I hope they were that engaged when I was speaking as well.
I'm sure. I'm sure. But anyway, that's great to plant the seed at that young age. So I'm glad that we're doing elementary career day. We've done other grades, but that's good. Also, the Public Schools Foundation is sponsoring a financial literacy event for Walton Beach High School on May 3rd. Always interesting to see when you give teenagers a budget and they have to go around and spend it, suddenly what becomes important. So that's coming up too. That's exciting. I want to say that our Take Stocks in Children's ceremony, our graduates, will be on May 2nd at the Niceville Community Center. Mr. Horton, I didn't get a number. About how many we have graduating?
I think it's 14.
14, okay. So we'll recognize those students. Of course, they get their scholarship, which is really good. But the other night, I had a real treat over at Florosa Elementary. Florosa is our farthest west school, and I was invited to see a student production of the musical Madagascar. And I just have to compliment and thank the music teacher, Ms. Terrace, over there. She had 50 students in grades 3 through 5 participate in this play. It was astounding what these students did. I just wish all of you could have seen it. So a real shout out to her. I don't know how you even organize 50 third to fifth graders and get them up on stage in costume, singing, hitting their mark. No, I saw no errors. And if you know that little movie and everything, they have to be animal characters, and it was fabulous. So again, example of how we're supporting the arts and doing a terrific job. And we have some wonderful teachers out there truly, I think, working miracles with getting these students to do things. So it was quite a treat to, and I got to meet some of the stars and talk with them. And again, students are just so poised and so sophisticated these days when you get to meet them. So it was great. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mrs. Vancheck. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you. I do have one request, and this is my usual request after coming back from FISBIT last week, to have Mr. Frakes deliver an update of what we talked about. I'll just give you a little brief insight. Board members, our property insurance and items are not going to be as bad as we thought it was going to be. It's actually a lot better. It's still a little higher, but considering what we thought going in, it's manageable for the district. So I'm really excited to report that. But Russ will come back when the superintendent brings them for that and give you a more detailed version of what we talked about the last 3 days. Also, Krista Shea was there supporting Mr. Frakes, and myself and Mr. Frakes had to do a presentation before the trust itself. And I will tell you that we kind of winged it. And I think winging things sometimes is better than planning it, because then you overthink things. So we did a great job of presenting how school board members and trust and superintendents and risk managers collaborate together to help bring risk management to the forefront of a school district. So we had a lot of positive feedback from trustees and superintendents who were there, and all the risk managers. So really excited about that. Just real quick, so we talk about how schools individually perform well, and we have all these state championships, all these recognitions. But the one thing I've always admired about our school district is how we come together as a whole. So when we have individual schools that are competing for a national championship, like the Baker volleyball girls, I know we were all excited and, just, behind them, or any school that gets into the finals, we really step up and show our support, and that goes through the entire school district. But Crestview High School has really taken on chess this year, or over the last couple of years, and has really developed a team. But what they found out is they had other schools who wanted to participate, but they just didn't have as many. So the teacher at Crestview High School, Mr. Contry, has now developed a team that comprises of students from not just Crestview High School, but from Niceville and Fort Walton Beach High School. And I'm sure that's going to grow, and hopefully eventually the chess teams will grow to their own school and be able to compete at a statewide and national level. But we did have one student who actually was, he didn't win, but for the Crestview team itself, they placed in the Florida State Scholastic Championship K-12 under 1100 division in chess for the state of Florida, and they have a nice big trophy. But I will tell you, even though they didn't win, but they'd be in the top, recognition there, that was a big win. But to hear that there were students from Fort Walton, Niceville, and Crestview who all participated and came together, even though they were under the Crestview banner, it was Okaloosa County as a whole. And that's how Mr. Contry wanted it to be presented, that it was a team effort of Okaloosa schools. And then also today, beginning today, if you happen to be up in the Laurel Hill area, I know it's just small trek right up the road. They're doing a plant sale. It's an annual plant sale that they do for a fundraiser to help their students. It started at 7:30 today. I will have more of a report, Dr. White. I know how much you like plants and all that, and I'll be going up there later on just to kind of see what they're doing and report back what plants that they have. So, but if you happen to be in the Laurel Hill area, go support them.
Or bring us one.
Or bring us one.
I'm just going to ask if you'll take a list.
I was going to say,
I'll
bring
tell
us
you what,
one.
I still owe y'all Chick-fil-A too, so, I haven't forgot
The
about that.
list is growing.
Haven't I, Ms. Card? I haven't forgot about that, have I? So, but board members, I do want you to know that I appreciate your trust and confidence in me with the FSBIT, the Florida School Board Insurance Trust, as a trustee. I will just tell you that this past meeting, again, like last year's April meeting, was very challenging for all of us. But I can assure you that you have 13 trustees, 13 risk managers, 13 superintendents who all believe in doing what's right for 13 different school districts, and we're going to benefit from that. So, but I'm just honored to be able to represent our school district in that capacity. So,
And we appreciate you doing that
Yeah.
really
Taking
greatly.
yeah, it was tough this year because right after the Auntie Mitchell Awards, I had to drive to Tampa, so I didn't get in until about 2:30, and our first meeting started at 8. So, you know, and when you gain that hour, it's not fun. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bryant. All right, colleagues, that brings us down to Section 14, public comment, and then Section 15, as we mentioned, we'll have a public hearing. And Superintendent and Mr. Attorney, if there's any other business, good there? Staff, association, we're all good? All right, this meeting is adjourned.